Hello, everyone. I'm David Morris, publisher of Lake Drive Books. Glad you've joined us for this little video with author Kate Meyer talking about her book, Faith Doesn't Erase Grief. We're just going to spend a few minutes here learning about Kate and what she does and what her book's all about, just so you have an opportunity to learn a little bit more, and hope you'll enjoy this time. Welcome, Kate. Good to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, you too. This is exciting to get this going for both of us, for me and Lake Drive Books.
Same here. Your book is technically the first book that Lake Drive Books is publishing. So it's very exciting. And I'm looking forward to doing these videos with all the authors. I think it's a great way to connect with readers.
Absolutely.
Now as well as later. So just tell us about yourself. You've got some pretty awesome credentials, but there's a lot of life experience behind that. Tell us briefly what you do and how you got here.
Yeah. So I like to tell people that I live in Michigan, but I am from and forever will be from Wisconsin. That's an important part of my story. I hold it fast and true. But in addition to writing, I came into writing actually through my career as a healthcare chaplain. And then I went into private practice after getting my professional license in counseling. I went into private practice, and that eventually evolved into a full-time kind of combination job with hospice, where I still get to work with people as their chaplain, and then I work with another set of clients as their bereavement counselor. So that's kind of my professional journey. I'm married and I have 2 chocolate labs that rule our house and our heart. And any time with family or game nights with friends, that's pretty good stuff for me.
Thank you. I think a question that's often on my mind about you, Kate, and I've never asked you this question before, but what is it like being a bereavement counselor a lot of your time? How do you manage that? That's got to be, at least from the outside looking in, it sounds challenging.
Yeah, it can be exhausting. I know when I was in private practice, I had a variety of clients. So I wasn't as worried about burning out. When I got into bereavement counseling, I really started to think about, how am I going to protect myself? Because this can be really heavy work. And so I put my own counselor hat on for a second and thought about, what do I need to do to decompress and to make sure that I don't bring my clients home with me, so to speak. And so I have a few routines. I've got an inner circle of people that I can contact at the drop of a hat to just talk about anything. But honestly, fiction reading is huge for me. I listen to audiobooks all the time. Grocery shopping, walking the dogs, doing dishes. Every time I'm in the car, I'm listening to a fiction book of some kind. And that is my, just kind of turn it off, put it aside, and escape into a story.
Okay, what kind of fiction? Now you have to tell us.
Well, I do a lot of psychological suspense. But then if I start having weird dreams, then I change to really, just really, chick lit, low key, beach read type stuff.
Perfect.
So I kind of, I go back and forth. Sometimes heavy things. Yeah. But also having clients, once I was in it long enough to have clients who were kind of towards the end of my time with them, mixed with the people who were just starting, that helped a lot, because I was able to hold on to the transformation I saw in clients as they were able to kind of make friends with grief instead of keep pushing it away, and how that changed them and the growth that they had. And really the hope that they found as they went through the experience. And that's the biggest thing. Clients ask me that question a lot. How do you do this every day?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And that's what I tell them. I've seen people at the 13-month marker as often as I've seen people at the 1-month marker. And that's what makes me do this. To see where people can get.
Sounds like a survival mechanism of the trade too. And isn't everything about transformation? That should be something that's built into wherever we are.
Absolutely.
So speaking of which, that's what your book is about. Faith Doesn't Erase Grief, Embracing the Experience and Finding Hope.
Yeah.
So what inspired you? What inspired you to jump in on that concept and write that book?
Yeah. Those same clients. It kind of snowballed. I had one client, and then it just kind of kept happening. These clients, very distraught in their grief, sitting across from me, feeling, in addition to their grief, feeling shame and feeling guilt over being sad that someone they love died, because their faith, whether it was their pastor or something they had heard just kind of growing up in the Christian church, whatever it would be, made them feel that it was wrong to embrace their grief, to really experience their grief, that they had to rush to this idea of rejoicing that their person is in heaven. But we're still here, right? So I can be grateful for my person that they're in heaven, but I'm still here having to figure out how to navigate life day to day without them being here. Mm-hmm. And that's where that comes from. That's what prompted that for me.
So you're seeing that shame in your clients. What do you think? Why do you think that is a common occurrence? You see them present the concern in the sense of shame. As an ordained minister and a person with an MDiv, how do you see? Why do you think? What's your own theory on where that comes from?
Yeah, I just this past Sunday, actually, I was the first line of a sermon I was able to preach. Simply said, as Christians, I think we focus too much on the end game sometimes, and I think that's where it comes from. Is we're so certain branches of Christianity are so focused on conversion of everybody, get everybody to heaven, that we lose that as followers of Jesus, there's a lot that we are meant to experience and do right here on this earth. We are meant to have all of these human experiences, and we are meant to support one another as we walk through the consequences of these experiences. So loving someone is very natural, but loving someone also means one day we're going to grieve, because one day we're going to lose them, whether that's from moving, end of a relationship, or death, right? The grief is going to come, and we're meant to experience that. So I think the shame comes from this. I just have to, if I love Jesus, I'm supposed to be happy and think about heaven. And I think if we take a good look at the Gospels, that right there is enough to show, Jesus would never support that. He doesn't agree with that. I don't believe that for a second. So, yeah. That
prompts a question in my mind. I'd like to get to a little bit about, just hear you explain what's in the book. We're trying to keep this short, but quick question. What do you say to a pastor or someone in church who knows someone who's struggling with grief? What's like one thing you try to tell them to do?
For the supporter?
Yes.
Of someone?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So to supporters, I want to point out to them that you don't know what's going on in this person's day-to-day life and how their entire world has been shaken. And it's not either or. It's not about they're not rejoicing in heaven, they're grieving. It's both and. They might have perfect peace that their person's in heaven, but that doesn't eliminate the fact that their world is now upended and they have to figure out how to continue to live without that person in it. And that's for every kind of relationship. I think sometimes we think, well, if it's an aunt or a friend, we kind of diminish the grief someone's allowed to feel, but we don't know what relationship they had. And their world is still changed because that person still isn't in it, even if they don't live in it every day, live together every day.
We don't know what their experience was like, and their world has been changed. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Seems so simple, but it's hard to sort of, in small talk and being with people, it's hard to create space for that. Sometimes I hear it's good to just be silent and just sit with people, and that acknowledges the very thing you're talking about.
Give people space and time.
Yeah.
More than your words.
Of course, I read your book, so that might be coming from you.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the book. What do you say is, there's the intro. You talk about, the church could be better at helping, religious people could be better at helping others in grief. Tell us, you call it a grief survival kit. So what's in it? What's in it?
Yeah, so the first few chapters are kind of laying a foundation to get everybody, regardless of exposure to organized religion, regardless of experience with traditional psychology. It's kind of a leveling of the playing field to get just some basic understandings down. And also a chapter focused on education about emotions, because adults are typically pretty bad at emotions. So there's a little primer on that. And then the remainder of the book takes people through what I have kind of named in phases of early grief, middle grief, and lasting grief. And those chapters and the ones that come after are intentionally an interweaving of what grief psychology teaches and what we see scripture teach, and how those two things actually really support one another. There's a lot of Christianity that doesn't even really buy into psychology or counseling. And this will support those people in helping them to see that they really do, they land together, they support together, they work together. So it's taking both of those things. It's not solely Bible, it's not solely psychology. It's intentionally putting those together. And that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to write the book, because as I looked at the market trying to find books to refer to those clients of mine, I wasn't finding anything that did that. And so I decided to take on that task of creating it. And then the book ends with a pretty substantial toolkit, lots of resources, things that people can use on their own. This book is for those actively in grief. It is for those knowing that grief is coming. It is for helpers, whether that's pastors, elders, deacons, friends, family. So really it's equally accessible, I would say, to, wherever you are with grief right now. There's something that will strike a chord for you.
Yeah, you've been hearing me say everybody needs to have this book in their mental health toolkit. Yeah. I really believe that. It's a very accessible read. My wife, Lisa, read the book, and she lost her elderly parents. She had parents who were older 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, and reading your book helped her realize of some of the unprocessed grief that she still has, which is inevitable. Yeah. So it was helpful in that regard. Some of the things in the toolkit, you were a big advocate of journaling. Why writing and journaling?
Journaling because I firmly believe that keeping things trapped in the brain is the worst place for them to be, because we make things even bigger and badder when they're in our mind than when we get them out. So writing helps us process the words out. It helps us organize our thoughts. It helps validate what we're thinking. And that's a big one. We do a lot of invalidating of our own emotions, judging our own emotions. And so if we can get them out and write, it helps us expel them a little bit, get a better understanding, and helps us see that these are justified things to be thinking and feeling. So yeah, there are a few different journaling techniques that I teach in the book. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of journaling, for sure.
Well, tell us, maybe by way of wrapping up here soon, if there's anything else on your mind, certainly let us know. But tell us, how would you summarize what you want people to get out of the book?
I want people to, I think we have an opportunity as Christians to demonstrate how grief can be different. I think in general, our culture is not great at grief. We don't give space. We expect people to be better by month 2 or 3. And that's just not the reality. And I think, as Christians, we're meant to be light, right? We're meant to be people who can bring hope to others. And so I think if we can experience that ourselves and see how different grief can be, and what we can learn and embrace and grow, all of that while acknowledging and sitting with the pain, I think that's an amazing opportunity to then start to change how everybody experiences this process. And maybe one day we can get to a point where if your parent or your spouse dies, you get more than 3 days off of work. If a sibling dies, you get more than 1 day off of work. I mean, we don't acknowledge it properly at all. And if this can be the beginning of that, I think that would be a pretty amazing thing.
Maybe too, it would help expand people's idea of who God is.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, breaking that box a little bit, that God is in, and helping us remember, part of the reason Jesus was here was to show us understanding, help us to see the humanity of God. And so the scripture passages that are chosen and that are included in the book intentionally point to that. And we get to see those parts of Jesus a little bit more. So yeah, I think expanding the idea of who God is, breaking those boxes is a great,
Yes.
I would love to see that happen.
Yes. Well, I do recommend your book. It's just such an accessible, well-organized read. And you feel like you're getting help right from the very first page. And reading is good for you.
Yeah.
I say that as a publisher. So where can people find you?
The easiest way to get me is to go to Kate J. Meyer, MEYER.com. That has links to all kinds of things. But I'm also on Instagram. You can find me there as well. If you go to the website and Facebook, if you go to the website, you can click subscribe and you'll get a monthly newsletter that keeps you up to date on all things. That's probably the most efficient way to get there. And at the website, I'll just throw this in there.
Yes.
If you pre-order Faith Doesn't Erase Grief, there's a tab on the website, FDEG pre-order incentive. Click that tab and you get the 7-day companion Bible study for the book that is only available for those who pre-order. So that's taking just 6 of the scripture references in the book and taking kind of a deeper dive into them. So that's there too.
And speaking of fiction, going back a little bit, there's also information about
The Red Couch, yes, which is coming up on its year of publication, which is kind of hard to believe. The Red Couch is a women's fiction novel. There are a lot of grief themes. There's self-discovery. There's breaking free of patterns of abuse and just self-shame, self-discovery, I think is
Great.
the most succinct way to sum that story up. Yeah.
Well, thank you for making this time. I know it's early in the morning somewhat, and you're off to another day of doing the things that you do. So thanks for your hard work on this book.
Yeah.
And please, if you're watching this, take a look. There's lots of opportunities to learn about the book. And if you like it, share it. That's how things work in the world of books and helping out authors like Kate Meyer. So thanks again, Kate. And
thank you.
Wishing you the best with the book.
Letting me be part of Lake Drive Books.
Oh, absolutely. I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.